All right, it's 9 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and get started. There's quite a bit to cover this morning, so instead of waiting for more people to show up, I'm just going to dive right in. Hopefully, you guys can see my screen okay. Um, if you have any questions, let me know, please. There's a lot again, so if I tend to go too fast or you want me to slow down, you want to have a discussion, just please just stop me, please. Okay, so wanted to kind of as we start every single meeting, just remind you all to please send your requests and questions into fiscal@laca.org. I've put this little thing here because we still tend to get some emails from time to time sent to other email addresses. And the reason we want this fiscal@laca.org is because both Tiffany and I are included on that email, but also because that's the email address that goes into our help desk where requests can kind of be tracked, and it allows our bosses to know, kind of what we're doing, keep track of, how busy we are, and it just it, there are a million good reasons to use that email address. If you want to address the email to, either Tiffany or I, go ahead and do that. Just use that fiscal@laca.org email address so that um, we have a better way of, tracking all of the help desk tickets and questions that come in from the district. So just a good reminder for that. All right, diving right into some of the more critical items. First thing on the software updates is I wanted to address this new Pay Stub Protection Act that came out recently. I did send an email to you all about this. I'm not sure if you already knew about it or not. I literally sent the email minutes after finding out about it, so I wasn't aware until until the email went out. So what this is essentially doing is kind of requiring your direct deposit notices that you're likely already sending out to all of your employees to have a few changes. So I'm going to kind of back out of the slideshow for a second. What I would do is maybe if my email wasn't clear on what this Ohio new law does, just maybe Google Ohio Pay Stub Protection Act or something. And there are quite a few articles about it or whatever you can read and interpret how you want, or do what you need. But anyways, I'm not advertising for anyone, but this particular one gives me kind of a rundown of the new requirements that are now required to send out to employees on pay stubs. Many of these are already on your existing direct deposit notices that are going out. But there are some new items such as the the full dates of the pay period, meaning that the pay period start and end date as it's applicable for each employee. I think the old pay slips just had the pay period ending date. So now we have to add the start date for hourly employees, hours worked, hourly rate, and then this questionable hours worked in excess of 40 hours. I'll kind of get to that in a second. But what I wanted to do, I've gone ahead and added a new direct deposit notice to every one of your databases. I know a lot of you use our custom, air quoting the LACA notice to send. It's got your logo on it. It's a little more fancy than the default notice in the system. So what I've done is I've updated all of those custom notices with the new fields. And if you all want to kind of follow along or log into your own USPS database, you can kind of test and see what this looks like. Just type in or select a random employee or type in your own name from your database, and then click this payment button on the left-hand side. Give me just a second. I'm gonna make a small change here. All right, sorry. So once you click that payment button on the left-hand side, you should have, the most recent payment that you paid that person, or the newest direct deposit notice at the top of your list. Just check the box beside that and click payment checks and direct deposits. Choose direct deposits in PDF, and then whatever you have in your configuration to come up as the default form should be showing there. Oh, I want you to click the drop box and select test DD notice. I think I named it the same in every database. And you all should have access to this form. I didn't want to make any official changes because I want you to kind of see what it's going to look like before I change anything, or change your existing notice in your database. So select test DD notice and process payments. So if you're following along, you should have your own district direct deposit notice in there. Just to make note of some of the changes that were made. It's going to look a lot like your old one. I tried to make these changes as inconspicuous as possible, so that they didn't, I guess, necessarily change what was already there. So I've added a pay period start date to go along with the existing pay period end date that was already there. And then I added a rate field to kind of go along with the new requirements that likely that wasn't there before. At least I don't think it was in any of your slips before. So rate. You will notice that well, most of the other requirements, and I'll just kind of flip back to that website. Names of the employee or employee's address, gross wages paid, net wages paid, the amount and purpose of each deduction. That information is already existing on your notices. So that's already there. And then these last three changes: total hours worked, hourly rate, and hours in excess of 40 hours in one work week. Those three items only apply for hourly employees. So in your new test direct deposit notice form, I put a stipulation in there for the total hours worked and the total hours over 40 hours per week. That those only apply if the person's compensation that they're getting paid on during that payroll is marked as hourly and not daily in the pay type, I think, field on their compensation record. So if you're looking at a notice right now and those don't exist, like the one I have pulled up here, then that means that the person doesn't have hourly marked on their compensation record that they're getting paid for. If you want to, like, you guys know who those people are that are marked as hourly employees, just return back to your USPS, type a new name in there for one of them, go back to payments and generate this particular database that I'm working on. I kind of scrambled at the last minute. I don't have that. If you give me just a second here, I'm going to pull up kind of a screenshot of one that I took from a database that I was working on. Give me just a second. I apologize. I had a lot to get ready for this meeting and I forgot to make this one little change. Okay. Okay, so if they have hourly marked in their compensation, there should be at the bottom of their of oops, the bottom of this section here, there should be this total hours worked and hours over 40 hours per week items listed. And you can see that with employees in your own database using that test form right now. So the total hours worked field is it seems to be working pretty well. Depending on how you are, entering your payments for these employees. So what it's essentially looking at is the compensations, what calendar is being used to pay the employee. It's using the hours and day field and multiplying it by the number of work days to come up with the total hours worked. And then if you have any extra items that you're paying an employee on, it's totaling that. Where things get kind of tricky currently is getting this hours over 40 hours per week calculation to work. What the programmers are finding is that, and they've been getting swarmed since the latest USPS release came out over the weekend. They've been getting swarmed with hundreds of suggestions, calls, tickets from every different scenario and situation from every district. That's saying, what about this situation? What about that situation? They are in current talks with multiple legal teams to try to interpret what exactly this might mean. And I will tell you at this particular moment in time, I cannot tell you how that is currently pulling or working at this very second. We do have a meeting with SSDT in the morning, and they intend to discuss this particular topic in field with us to let us know how it's currently working in the software and discuss if there are any major changes that need to be made. And I know that you guys are all on a strict kind of a timeline here because this law takes effect on April the 9th. But I will tell you that there are a lot of people working very hard to get everyone as compliant as they could possibly be by that deadline. So I don't have a 100% confirmation message, for you that that field is going to work how you think it should or how you think it should be intended, because it's kind of a work in progress right now, based on the given timeline that the programmers have been working on it and the many interpretations of what this House bill, is. It's a lot right now, a lot of moving parts and a lot of gray areas and a lot of just over one tiny field on a direct deposit notice. So anyways, I wanted you all to have an opportunity to kind of see what changes have been made so far. I apologize if this is confusing, but it's also confusing for me and many other people too. So it's not something we've created or started. It's just something that we're reacting to based on a recent, item that's passed in the state of Ohio. So I'm trying to do the best I can to kind of explain this. Does anybody have any? Will there also be an update to the payments that we export to XML to print from Edge? Yes, that change has already been made in the software as well. That was made over the weekend. I think that should already be there. So Lindsay, that's a good question. If you want to maybe try, I don't know, I can work with you after the meeting if possible. We can maybe test this out, but I think that's already been changed. And it works the same way it added the necessary fields um, that at this point are capable of being added. Um, I know not many employees at most districts, work more than 40 hours in any given week. Uh, but this applies to enough people where there's a lot of attention being paid to it right now. So I will I will definitely be asking questions tomorrow in my meeting and take a lot of notes so that I can better explain to you what's going on. And I will send you guys some sort of email tomorrow giving you an update. Um, but I do want you to know that this is currently being worked on. It's like literally 95% completed. But I want you to just kind of take, um, at least note of what's been done so far so that you can, um, see what's going on. So, any other questions? Okay. That was a lot. All right, the next thing that I wanted to talk about, I maybe have mentioned this next topic in some of our software updates, and that is the file archive is going to, although there's not going to be any major changes to you guys, but the actual storage of the file archive is being removed from the databases themselves to a different like server location. Anyways, it doesn't really impact the end user, but your file archive is actually going to be moved, and as you know, that has a lot of reports and things in it. Essentially, what they're finding is that as you close your months and run payrolls and all of these, you process your payables, and all of these files are getting built inside of your file archive, whether it's USPS or USAS. The size of the databases themselves are growing and growing and growing. And what's happening is they're discovering that the amount of time that it takes to back up your databases, um, the amount of time to process certain jobs inside of the software, it's just becoming longer and longer. What they're trying to do is make the database more efficient so that it becomes faster and faster. Um, the major solution they've come up with is to create a new document storage uh, application. Now, what this means is in the utilities menu right now, you're seeing a file archive. What you're going to see in the future is in the utilities menu a line that says document storage. That's it. When you click on that, it's going to have the look and feel of the file archive. It's just they had to rename it something because they're moving it to a different place and file archive was already taken. So essentially, that's all that you're going to really notice as far as the front end. Um, Now, it's not going to be a separate application you have to log into or anything like that. Um, what this means is we actually have to do a migration of data, which can take anywhere from 2 hours to 2 days in a database. So this is something that we're going to end up doing over a weekend. Um, as we have to work with SSDT to find out when that's going to occur. And this is going to begin later in April. Um, and essentially, they don't, once this becomes available and it's out there, they don't want every ITC doing every district database all at once. It's just too much for the servers. So they're kind of splitting it out weekend by weekend so that um, everything goes smoothly without any major issues. Um, I guess I've already kind of covered these other items. The only that now there is going to be a benefit to you. So I got to see a demo of this last week. It's actually really neat. Um, so in the file archives right now, once you open the file archive, you have the different tabs. Let me actually explain what I'm talking about here. Um, Shoot, I don't know that this test database actually has a file archive. Oh, thank goodness. Okay, it does. So you have your tabs at the top, your payroll archive, your pay form, W-2, other. Those are still going to exist in this new document storage item. But what's going to be added is a tab at the end that says search. And what this is going to give you the capabilities of doing instead of, and you know, you probably recognize this if you ever go to the file archive to find something, it gets really cumbersome to open each monthly folder, whatever, to find what you're looking for. This search capability is going to be really neat because you can type in a word, whether that's a vendor name, an employee name, a check number, and it will go through every single file within your archives and pull out a suggested list, kind of like a Google search of reports that might contain that item in a matter of like 1 second. And so the search capabilities are going to be pretty neat to search your archives to find, you know, historical documents if you needed to find something like that. So, you know, along with this kind of inconvenient change, you know, it probably isn't going to be that inconvenient, but it comes some improvement. So, um, anyways, I just wanted to kind of let you know that this is going to happen in USPS and in USAS. So that's kind of something to kind of look forward to later in the month. Um, so that's what this bullet point's about. Any questions on this before I move on? Okay, and you know, again, hopefully after this is done, um, you know, there may also be some benefits of processing, you know, certain things like payables or uh, you know, just things that, you know, processing a payroll, maybe initializing the payroll might might be sped up because, you know, we're looking at a much smaller database size after this change is done. So you're probably not going to see any impact. We will also we'll take care of the entire migration. I'll just kind of keep you notified on what's going to happen. When this migration occurs, the database will be down for a while. That's why we're choosing to do this over the weekend. So there's that. An update on those of you who are using the kiosk Ippy application currently. They are working on a new SSDT Ippy application that will be entirely independent of anything that exists. So whereas right now you're logging into the kiosk to access the Ippy, you'll just have to log in straight to an Ippy application. Um, so that's kind of, you know, a little bit of a change that's going to happen, but the intent is that it's going to have the same look as ESS um, and the kiosk. So it's going to look like ESS, but have the same kind of options and feel and look as what the kiosk offers. So the kiosk Ippy. Um, there's a committee that Stephanie, our director, is actually part of. Because she was an Ippy chairperson for a number of years. She has a lot of experience using the kiosk software. Also, an Ippy chairperson from another district of ours is on this committee. They are giving tons of feedback. They've already met with SSDT once. I think they're meeting again soon to go over, you know, see some demonstrations, go over some changes they want to see. So what, you know, essentially what they're doing is just trying to make sure that when this gets rolled out, uh, that you know, it's meets the expectations of the district and does what it wants. Now, when is that? It is expected to be available in July, when this is released. Um, we will be able to migrate uh, existing information. So they're expecting to be able to migrate users, plans, activities, work like the the flows that are used for the committees to for approval, the committee members, the chair people. I mean, everything's supposed to be migrated from one to the other so that it eliminates the initial setup. Um, so essentially, we're kind of taking that out of your hands and just doing it all for you, and hopefully you're just logging into a usable application. Um, we will schedule those migrations independently. I see a question in the chat. Will this be available to, oh, sorry. First question, do you know if the old IPDIPI info will be migrating to the new one? Yes. It is my understanding that anything that currently exists in the kiosk under IPDIPI should be able to be moved over to the new IPDIPI, SSDT IPDIPI version. And then will this be available to a school even if they did not participate in the kiosk IPDIPI? Yes, it will be. We'll just have to kind of build it from scratch once the application is up and running. So I can kind of turn on a blank IPDIPI application and then we can just start building it from there. Um, I don't really know what that process looks like. I did see a brief demo of this last week. It looks really neat. It looks a lot like ESS, but it just has zippy dippy kind of options. And I think what they've done is they kind of, where ESS kind of has that blue background, I think they've slightly changed the color scheme a little bit so that you can kind of tell that you're in a different application, but with the same look and feel. So it's kind of neat. And I think that that's kind of the way that they've gone to differentiate the different databases going forward. Um, so that's kind of what we're looking at. Let's see. Oh, the final line here is that the existing kiosk will be disabled on December 31st. So everything's gonna kind of, I can extract information. I can give you some temporary access to get into the kiosk, whatever. Um, but the kiosk will no longer essentially exist on 12/31. So I'm not entirely sure. You know, we've extracted a bunch of leave request information when we did your ESS migrations. I'm assuming we will do the same and extract a bunch of ippy information when we do your ippy migrations if you want. Um, oh, this reminds me. Um, Stephanie wanted to send some communication out to every district superintendent and committee chairperson. She knew that I was going to be talking to everyone about this today, so she may also include like the treasurers or something, you know, but um, she wants to be kind of transparent when it comes to this ippy dippy migration, just because she was part of an ippy dippy committee before and knows kind of how sensitive this can be at the district. So she also wants to make it known that this is going to be available to Rowena's question, to any district who's currently not using the kiosk ippy dippy. So um, I think Tiffany, if you can post
Yep, I got it
that Google sheet in the chat. What
here.
we kind of want you to do is fill in who at your district is currently represented as the committee chairperson. Um, we just want to kind of gather this information for her so that she can be as thorough as possible in sending out this email to everyone. So if you can, please log in. Uh, or please access this Google Doc and fill it out to the best of your abilities. That would help us at least pass the information on to the people that need to see it. Give you guys a second to do that. Good questions so far. So if anybody has any other questions they can think of, please let us know. Okay, I'm kind of excited to also talk about this next slide. And that's for districts who have a relationship with American Fidelity. Um, I went to a little training seminar last week with some American Fidelity representatives and also some higher up people in some ITCs, and they were talking about the the American Fidelity payroll integration that currently exists for districts. We do have like 3 or 4 districts of you guys in LACA world that are currently doing this. Um, but I know that there are a lot of you out there that have a relationship with American Fidelity that don't do this. And essentially what this is something that will allow American Fidelity to pull what information they need. They've got all of the templates already set up, and they can just do data pulls when they need to during enrollment times or whenever uh, to pull out information out of USPS directly. And essentially, this eliminates the need to manually pull census reports and whatever other reports that you are pulling and manipulating and spending a lot of time on and sending to American Fidelity just to know that maybe they're not right. So I just wanted to kind of let you guys know that this product is out there. They spent half of the presentation talking about how safe and secure this process is. It's essentially like those of you who are using Bonefish, or, a lot of you have integrations with SC View or Pay Schools, or I mean, there are other third-party integrations that are currently being used by districts. I just wanted to let you know that American Fidelity also offers like an integration feature. Uh, um, Essentially, what this means is that uh, if you sign up for this and want to use it, um, just notify us. We'll work with you. We'll create an American Fidelity user account. We'll give them read-only access so that they can't, it's not like this username and password can be created to log into the database and make changes. So it's just read-only access. We'll provide a password to American Fidelity and, with a secure email. Um, and once it's set up, essentially you no longer have to run census reports and American Fidelity type reports, manipulate them and send them back to them. So it's just kind of a quicker way of transferring the data when needed. So if you have that relationship with American Fidelity, I would suggest maybe looking into this. There is no charge. That was a question that I asked because I know that's meaningful to you. They said absolutely no charge to the districts. They're just trying to get the best quality information that they can get from you, because it seems like everyone in the state of Ohio sent them a different formatted file. It was just time consuming. They are saving time doing it this way. Um, so they're not passing any charge on to you. So that was the explanation I got. And if you're interested, they encouraged me to tell you to contact your American Fidelity account manager to start the enrollment process. So, not a sales pitch for American Fidelity, but those of you who are using it, I mean, we do get a handful of questions every year on census reports and American Fidelity reports. So I thought it would be helpful for you because I know a lot of you have this relationship to know that it's out there. Any questions on this? Okay, I'm gonna take a small break and let Tiffany kind of go over some EMIS information.
Okay. This is just going to be, um, again, your EMIS resources. This is for the final collection that goes from February until the beginning of August. And this collection is also going to have the attendance information included in it, which is different from the initial collection. So here, we have everything you're going to need, your manual. We have our LACA EMIS documentation here, um, a guide for the final staff reporting. There's also a quick reference guide. Um, if you have a question and it's something that you're not finding in the EMIS manual, we can always send a ticket to ODEW to help you. Um, their turnaround time, it's gotten better, but we can do that. And then, of course, here is the data collector link. And if you use Crosscheck, your link to Crosscheck. Um, on this next slide here, I just have some EMIS reminders. Just what determines what is going to be reported. That's going to be by the system configuration that we change. So if it's 2025, that's going to go from July 1, 24 to June 30, 25. How are we determining what compensations are included in this collection? Um, if the date range overlaps the fiscal year, which is determined by the configuration, which we set for you, then it's going to be included. If the fields are checked on the employee position and compensation screens to report to EMIS. Also, as a reminder, archived records are not going to be included in a collection. On the guide that we have on our website, there's different scenarios. So if somebody left and you're not sure, how you should be reporting them, there's a few different scenarios on there, or you can always send a question in and, we can assist you. Um, Also the EMIS override fields, um, anything that you put in those fields, that is what is going to be reported, not what's on the compensation record. So if you are utilizing the override fields, keep in mind that will be what is reported. Um, this is the checklist here for the process basically that's on our website. The final reporting documentation, it's just if you want to work this way, and check it off as you go. But it is the same information that's on that document. Does anybody have any EMIS questions or, anything you can take back or, you know, anything you've been wondering? Okay.
Okay, tag him back. Okay. So we're next going to be talking about and kind of diving into the new contract discussion. So last chance to ask any questions on anything we've covered so far. American Fidelity, pay stubs, um, document storage, anything you guys can think of that you want to talk about. EMIS. No, let's not talk about EMIS. All right. So, okay. So a lot of you guys have already started doing this if you're not done already. But this is just kind of a good reminder on what needs to be done to update your calendars for next year. So I kind of updated the screenshots that I've included in the slideshow. Um, with current dates, but I'm not going to dive into the software to do this just because the screenshots pretty much show everything. So essentially, if you want to add days to your calendars, and remember, you're adding days to calendars in this software, not creating a new calendar. So you're essentially just going to open up your job, start with a job calendar, open it. Um, this section right here in the center is where you can kind of mass add work days to a calendar. Um, just type in your start date and end date for your specific set of employees. Choose workday and mass update. And it'll just go through. It takes a few seconds. It'll add all of the work days on all of the calendars for that particular set of employees. And then you can just kind of cycle through the months. You can, if there's a spring break, you can right click, remove the work day. Um, and if there's if you're adding holidays or whatever the case may be, just right click the day, make your updates, and then save your calendar. I will say that this little section in the upper right-hand corner of that screen can be very, very helpful in kind of just checking your work to make sure that the number of work days you're entering for the year are what you would expect that set of employees to have. So essentially you just type your start date and stop date over, a date range. Once you tab through, what you want to focus on is this custom date range that you've entered, and that'll tell you the total number of work days or holidays that you've entered in for that set of employees. That's one way to kind of verify your totals. Okay. Once you kind of settle on a particular calendar and you've got it set to the number of days that you want, you can copy that calendar to other calendars that are similar to save you some time so that you don't have to do that particular process for every single calendar that's similar. So, I mean, you just use return back to the job calendar grid. You'll use this copy button with the plus sign beside it and choose your um, calendar that you've already got created. You will enter in a start and an end date of the dates that you want to copy from that calendar. Then choose the calendars you want to copy to, and then click copy. And then all of those work days that you created on one calendar will then get moved over to other calendars. Keep in mind that if you need to make slight revisions, take off a day here or there, a week here or there, change the start date here or there, you may need to go into those calendars, make that quick revision, and save it and move on. Just as a reminder, under the reports menu, the canned job calendar report is available, where you can type in a date range, choose one or many calendars, and it will print out a report for each calendar that you've selected. At the bottom of each section of the calendars, it does give you a grand total. So, if you want to run that, you can verify that to verify your work days for several calendars at a time if you want. Any questions on job calendars? Again, I know most of you have already done this, so just a quick review for those who haven't. All right, next slide is a reminder to convert your personal leave when it comes time to do that. And that's done in the benefit update and projection section under the processing menu. I do have a link on the slideshow that you can use to take you to the manual where it gives very detailed instructions of how to use each option in that section. I'm not going to cover those today or demo them. I just wanted you to know that this information is out there. Some of you are pretty good at using this stuff, so um, if you have any questions again as you go through to do your conversions when it comes that time, um, just let us know. And we'll kind of do another reminder in the June meeting, if you wait until the end of the year to do that. So, all right. Going to next talk about new contracts. And I will do a little demonstration on this. I'll try to keep it relatively short, but just to kind of remind you of the processes and steps needed to do your new contracts. We do have some information here that takes you to the manual and all right, this might take you to our website. Sorry. So this takes you to our website where I've got a nice little document, or at least I hope it's a nice document that is helpful in doing new contracts for each district. We also have a link to the activation worksheet for those of you who want to schedule out your activations on, if you have different, steps of when everyone's starting to, start their new contracts throughout the year. So, um, I know I work with several of you on an annual basis to kind of work through those. So, feel free to continue sending those emails to us, put those tickets in, and we can work through those activations with you if you need help, if you have some complicated situations at the districts. And we've got some new salary notice instructions as well. So we've got links to some instructions. I will do a slight or a quick demonstration for you guys though. All right. So the first, actually, let me do this. Okay, here is the website instruction sheet. I'm gonna slide it over just so I make sure I don't miss anything. And kind of use that as my guideline on this demonstration. Second, moving some stuff out of the way here. Okay. All right, so new contract is listed under the processing menu. There are, I'm sorry, I guess I didn't remove my test changes. All right, sorry. Anyways, there are some tabs going across the top. Just as a reminder, I'll kind of go over which each one is. I'm not going to demonstrate each one, just kind of a quick reminder. The new contract and maintenance tab is essentially just a workspace for you to view and edit any of your new contracts before they become active. I think the terminology in the old software might have been purge. Anyways, I talk about activating in this software. So activation, purge, whatever you're doing with your new contracts, it can be done once it gets into this grid. It's just essentially a workspace. Mass copy is if you're essentially copying contracts from one year to the next. It can be done here. I know that most of you, however, import your new contracts from a spreadsheet. If not, maybe everyone does it this way. So that's what we're going to spend the most time doing. And of course, we'll talk about the salary notices here in a few seconds. But in order to import the new contracts, you're going to need a worksheet or a spreadsheet to work off of. And that can be found in the reports menu in the report manager. In our instructions, we do encourage you to utilize the LACA new contract compensation worksheet updated. And I thought about giving it a new name, but that's kind of what we've called it for the last couple of years, so it's consistent. But I've had to go into everyone's database and revise this worksheet because something in the last year in one of the updates slightly broke it, where it wasn't returning information when I would expect it to. So I made a little tweak behind the scenes to allow information to pull into the report. So what I'm going to show you is just kind of how to run that report. It's going to be a CSV file that gets generated. And what I would encourage you to do, let me just select default here. So with the default version, when you run this the first time, it shouldn't have any query parameters in it. So this start date and end date is essentially looking at the compensation start date field. So it can give you the opportunity to pick a range of start dates. But most of you are probably just going to want to look at any compensations from last fiscal year. So, if you use a filter that's just, 7/1 of the prior year, that way you're only returning on your worksheet any compensations from last year. That's probably all you're going to need to do. And then I would also encourage you to run this by pay group or maybe a couple of pay groups at a time and not try to run it for everyone. Just so that you can work on a smaller bunch of employees and kind of keep it more organized, a pay group at a time, or maybe a couple of similar pay groups at a time. If you need to type in multiple pay groups, you can. Here, just separate them by only a comma, no space. I'm just going to run this for one pay group just to kind of keep the demo short here. But if you do that and generate the report, you should get a worksheet that you can work off of that looks something like this. Okay. And if you guys end up having any issues generating information or not getting the information you would expect on this particular worksheet, submit a ticket, let us know, and I'll try to figure out what's going on. But this should work just fine. Here's what I'm gonna do. Let's just maximize this. Once you have your worksheet generated for your pay group, you can start verifying the information on it and changing it so that you can get it imported. And I know that I'm making this super fast demonstration here. Please stop me if you guys have any questions. Okay, real quick. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. Just want to make sure I go through the checklist here to make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, so. All right, I'm just going to start left to right and just kind of go over these fields. You'll notice that some of the header fields in row 1 are kind of squished together. Those fields are actually what's needed to import information into USPS under new contract. It's the header name, essentially. So employee ID is necessary in order to pull the employee into new contracts, so it's kind of squished together like that. Whereas last name, first name, those are just informational. They're to help you figure out who you're working with on the worksheet. If you happen to change a name, whatever, it's not going to change anything when you import it into new contract because this field name isn't the correct header format, so it's just going to ignore it when you do the new contract. So that's kind of why you'll see some of these headers, in different formats. Job number is the position number that you're working on. Code is essentially the pay group that you're working on. That's also not going to get changed in this particular example. It's just there informationally to let you know that the pay groups that you wanted to run on your report are what you actually have on your worksheet. Contract type. In the instruction document, this is kind of a big one that I've highlighted when it comes to importing. In order for this worksheet to get imported back in to new contract, you must change this contract type. And if you're importing it in as a new contract, it must be imported in as a number 4. All right, so I'm just going to change all of these compensations to a 4 and move on. In case you're wondering, 1, 2, and 3 are if you are importing like a mid-year contract change in, like if you have, 50 mid-year contract changes to make, you could essentially put them on a worksheet. Use the 1, 2, 3, or 4 option, and you can import those into new contract so that you don't have to create each one at a time. If if that situation ever comes up at your district and you want to try it to save yourself a lot of time, I'm definitely willing to help you out with that. But in this example here, we're just going to do a 4 because that represents a new contract that you're going to be creating for the next school year. New compensation label. Again, this is something that we've tried to encourage that you use at the district for years. This is a label that you can identify this compensation as opposed to a prior year compensation. I've always suggested using like the fiscal year or the school year, whether it's 2025 to 2026 or FY 26 or something, just to identify this compensation is different from prior years. This will show up if you are entering in future pay, and it wants you to select a compensation. While this label gets kind of thrown in at the end of the compensation so that you can, so if maybe this is like a, August or July payment that you're making in future pay and you haven't archived last year's compensation record, you've got multiple compensation records available. This label will show in future pay to show you, which one's 25 and which one's 26. So you don't get that error message when you initialize payroll that your compensation record is out of date range or something. So I would encourage you guys to utilize the label field, just so that so that you can tell your compensations apart more easily. Okay. Calendar type is essentially the code that's being used to identify which calendar is associated with the compensation. Position description is just, again, an informational description letting you know just for helpful purposes what this is. And I know in reality, you're probably not going to have secretaries and teachers and principals and superintendents all in the same pay group, but that's just the way that it is for this example because I don't have the best of test databases to demonstrate for you guys. So that's just the way that it is here. So just don't get too picky when it comes to that. Compensation description is another field. Some of you use this with the fiscal year as well, or maybe some sort of combination of the fiscal year and the position description. I don't know, however, whatever you guys want to put here. This is just, there's a field that says compensation description on the compensation record. So if you want to utilize this however you would like, you can enter something in here. You may already have something in there from the prior year. You can utilize that. You can change it, whatever you want to do. It's just, again, helping to identify, similar to the label, this compensation against others. I just don't know where else in the software the compensation description actually lives. It might pop up if the label doesn't exist. So, if you want to utilize both of these or one or the other, that should be helpful. Contract start date. Essentially, I'm just going to make this like the easiest little example ever. So just don't get too picky on the dates I choose here. So this is essentially the compensation start date. It's going to be the first work day for this particular pay group. So I'm just don't get too crazy with me here. So I'm just picking a date. I know that teachers don't start in July, but I'm just doing it for example purposes. Let's just say this group, I'm just picking 7/1 as my date and moving forward. And then I'm going to change my stop date. And these dates are brought in from the prior compensation, so you will need to change these, by the way. So this is one I would definitely highlight to change. Okay. Contract work days, you see this is just a common field, it's informational. What's going to happen when you import your new contracts is it's going to go out and look at the job calendar that's assigned to this employee. It's going to start with the contract start date and the compensation stop date. It's going to find all of the work days on the job calendar. And when it builds the new contract record, it's going to calculate that. So that's why it's important to make sure your job calendars are built first prior to doing your new contracts. Because this number is not going to get imported in when you import your new contracts. It's purely informational. Pay unit, daily or hourly, is another field that can be changed if you want. It can be daily or hourly. And I'm sorry, in the just to let you know, I've got a suggestion for all of the fields that need to be updated in the worksheet that I would suggest. But if you want a list of all of the field names, there is a link in the instructions that takes you to the manual that gives you what the header should be if you want to import it into new contract. So that is available if you want it. It's on the instructions here on page 5 under this little link. All right, so there's that. Unit amount is another one. I'll talk about unit amount in a second. This is essentially like the daily rate or the hourly rate. Retirement hours, I would definitely make sure those are accurate. Paper period kind of goes along with unit amount. I'm actually going to suggest that once you build these records, that before you import them, you just delete these fields. I put them on here in case you want to import them. And if you import them, they will import the numbers that you have on your worksheet. However, I suggest deleting them, and I'll show you here why in a second. But I would just rather the system calculate the paper period and the unit amount for me. And we'll talk about that in a second. But those fields are importable if you want to enter those on your worksheet. Contract amount is next. You can just go through here and type in, the contract amounts that you want to use for the year. Whatever. Just update all of those contract amounts. Contract obligation is another one that I'm going to suggest that we remove off of the import, because as long as your contract amount exists, as long as your calendar exists with your work days on it, obligation, paper period, and unit amount are all going to get calculated by the system when you import it. You don't have to actually import obligation, but this field is here if you want to. I'm going to skip over this next one because I'm not exactly sure why it's there. What I should probably just get rid of it in the template, but pays in contract, you want to make sure that number is accurate. Equal pays is another kind of tricky one. It's brought into the worksheet with a value of true. Essentially what this is the stretch pay checkbox that's on the compensation records. That true actually needs to be changed to a Y when you go to import it, because the importer will not recognize a true value for that field. It will recognize a Y. And I do have that on, yes, step number 7 under that on page 6 of the checklist here. So just be sure you do that. If you're utilizing the salary schedule fields, you can update those. I would encourage you to update those here at this point to save all of the manual entry and opening and closing or whatever, just to make sure that those numbers are imported correctly onto the compensation record. Let's just do that just to show you what happens. And then the calendar start date. This is I wanted to talk about this particular field. This is brought in, and a lot of times for your contract compensations, this is going to be probably equal to whatever the hire date was or the first day they worked on this position. And it's fine if this date is a historical date that exists several years in the past. It just needs to at least be a date that matches this particular compensation start date. And the reason is because if a calendar start date is blank, then your ODJFS reports are likely not going to include that employee's weeks properly when you run your ODJFS report because it goes out and looks at calendars and counts work days and whatnot. But if there's not a calendar start date associated with the compensation record, then it just doesn't know when to start looking at the calendar. So it's going to report 0 for that employee for number of weeks a lot of times. So I put that on this worksheet just so you can verify that each employee at least has a calendar start date. If you don't have it, I would encourage you to at least enter one on that employee, and that will flow through to the new contract when you begin using it, when you activate it and import it. So calendar stop dates on there, that's probably not even something you're going to want to enter. If somebody has a calendar stop date, you might want to remove it so that their compensation doesn't stop counting the work days on the calendar. So that's kind of why that field's in there. Hours and day, also again, make sure that the hours and day field is accurate so that the unit amount can get calculated properly. So once you've kind of made it through the entire worksheet, updating all of the information you need to work on, if you need to enter a formula to total up the total number of the contracts, you can do that. It's a spreadsheet. I would recommend that you do that if you're balancing against something else that you have for new contract purposes. Just make sure you remove that field before before you do your import. So just delete any calculations you've got on there. Once you have it completed, I'm sorry, I'm just going to save this real quick. And then the final step before we actually import it is I would recommend removing any of the fields off of this worksheet that you do not want to import. For instance, I'm just going to start selecting fields I know that I'm not currently using or changing. I mean, if you had an employee that, say for instance, had a calendar stop date and you removed it, you're going to want to leave this here so that their new contract starts with a blank calendar stop date. If you're not making any changes, you're not utilizing it, I just get rid of it. You verify that the primary email address for the employee is right, but if you're not making any changes, just get rid of it. It's this field, which I'm not even sure what it does, get rid of it. Like I said, I would get rid of contract obligation, pay per period, and unit amount because I'm going to allow the system to calculate all of that stuff for me. that reminds me of something else I want to talk about. If I'm not making any changes to, let's see, contract workdays again, I'm allowing the new contract to look at the job calendars. I'm not going to import the workdays. So we'll see here in a second what's going to happen, but I would just, again, just recommend getting rid of some fields that you're not making any changes to. So I'm just gonna delete those columns just to make sure I have no errors, no issues. I also have some random record in here that I'm not interested in creating a new contract for, so I'm gonna delete it. I would encourage you, if you have any employees who are no longer at the district, just get rid of those employees off of your worksheet. Once you have made all of the changes you want to make sure you save it. Make sure you save it as a CSV. Okay. Next, return back to USPS processing. Whoops, new contracts. Okay, you will go to the new import new contracts tab. You will choose the file that you just saved. All right. This contract start date field can be used in place of the contract start date on your spreadsheet. So if you don't enter that field on your spreadsheet, then and all of your new contracts that you're entering have the same start date, you could enter that here and it will use that to build your new contracts. If you have contract start date on your worksheet, then I would just leave this empty because it's going to import in what you have on your worksheet. And then crossing my fingers that this works. Okay, I think that it did. It should tell you if it loaded any new contract records. If anybody errored out, it will tell you, and it will also give you an error report. Which mine's blank, but it'll give you like what the employee ID was that errored out. I think it also might give you a reason why. Okay, so once you've imported, return to new contract maintenance. This is your workspace that shows you everything that's been imported into a new contract. You can view each record for accuracy. As you see, what was that person's name that I actually changed their amount on? All right. Zoe Arthur. Okay, so Zoe Arthur, I changed her new contract amount to 65,000. You'll note if you remember right, I took out several fields out of the worksheet, but they did import in based on calculations. So contract workdays is accurate based off of the calendar that is assigned to this employee. Again, pay no mind to the position description. I'm just using this as a general, just for demo purposes only, so it's not accurate anyway. The unit amount was calculated based off of the work days and the days, the hours and day. So everything seems to have, imported in as I would have expected it to. So you can kind of verify those. If you want to add fields to your grid so as you can quickly look at everyone at a time, there are lots of fields you can add to your grid. While new contract records are in this new contract maintenance grid, you do have access to reports, a new contract report, where you can kind of filter by pay group. You can import 10 different pay groups and your new contract maintenance grid might be a mile long. Um, but you can select what pay groups you want, and then you can run a report. Um, and this report is based off of what's in the new contract maintenance grid. Um, and then you can kind of verify, employees kind of all at once. And it does give you a grand total at the end. If you want to include a subtotal by, let's say we want to sort by pay group. It'll give you a subtotal of each pay group so that you can verify that against, what's been imported versus what you would expect, what that total was on the worksheet when you were working on it. Just so you can kind of stay in balance and make sure everybody imported in as expected. Okay. I was a little long-winded there, longer than I expected. Does anybody have any? I know this is just most of you, I think all of you have done this at least once, probably 2, 3, 4 times already. So anybody have any questions on that particular process for importing new contracts? Okay. Um, I'll kind of touch briefly on the salary notice portion. Sorry, Tiffany, this is going to give us some work to do probably, but while the items are in new contract, you can, if you want, generate the salary notices straight out of new contract after you've verified all of the amounts, everything looks good. So what will happen is by clicking the salary notices tab, you have lots of options. Most of you, maybe half of you, maybe more, I don't know. Anyways, a lot of you have reached out to me to do some sort of customized salary notice. I know almost every district is different when it comes to what information you've agreed upon to give to the employees in salary notice. So if you've given me your template, I would review it, excuse me, to make sure that nothing changed in your agreements. If you have changes that need to be made to your salary notices, your custom notices, please let us know. Create a ticket, let us know what you want changed. If you want to take a screenshot of your notice, draw some arrows, mark it up, whatever, take a picture, send it back to us of what you want changed specifically on your salary notices. The districts who utilize these system generated salary notices seem to be pretty pleased from last year on how they turned out. And so I would encourage you, if you haven't already done so, utilize the salary notices that are in the software. I'll kind of show you real quick different things you can do. So I'm not sure what the purpose of generating a specific employee notice this time of year would be, but that option is available if you wanted it. You're probably going to generate salary notices based off of certain pay groups. So if you have a specific pay group that you want to generate, at a time, you can do that by selecting the checkbox by select specific pay groups, selecting that pay group. If your notice is set up to include district information, that can also be included in this. Just hovering over this box kind of tells you what that means. You can read through that if you want. If you have a custom notice, you can select that in the form option. Otherwise, you're going to get the default salary notice, which gives you a lot, some good information, but is kind of basic. If that's what you're into, that's fine. If you have something that you customize, that's fine too. And then once you have your pay group selected, make sure, just kind of generally, just make sure, you're probably going to generate these in a date that's not April the 3rd. But this statement date, if you have a date at the top of your notice or bottom of your notice or wherever that says when this was generated, it just defaults to whatever the current day is. You can change that if you're running them for the future or in the past or whatever. you want to run the statement date for, you can change that date. Once everything's set up, generate the salary notices, and it'll generate like a report of everyone who's been included in the new contract maintenance screen under the pay groups that you've selected. It'll give you a quick, it'll give you a preview of what the salary notice is going to look like. If your district prints these off and has somebody actually sign them with a pen, great, and then distribute them. If you've sent me like a signature, I can actually pop a signature on here so that it doesn't have to be signed. And then you can send those out accordingly, however you want to do that. So that's kind of how easy it is to generate the salary notices. And again, this is pulling information from the new contract maintenance grid. So you're going to want to make sure that that grid is completely accurate first before you do that. If you choose and want to, I'm not going to demo this because I haven't cleaned up all of the data in this database yet. But you can go to core compensation and then go to the contract compensation screen after you've after you've activated or purged your new contracts and they're showing up in that contract compensation grid. You can filter on the label or the compensation description to get your FY26 compensations all in that grid. And there's a checkbox at the top that actually, let me try something here. Sorry, I will be right back. Just want to see something. Yeah, this will work. Okay. So there's a checkbox at the top that you can select all, and it's going to highlight everyone in blue. And there is a salary notice button there. So if you want to activate your new contracts and then run your salary notices, they can be done from this contract compensation grid as well. And it has the same settings that I just showed you. So you can, it doesn't have the filter by employee or filter by pay group here because it's literally just going to generate a notice for the items that you've selected on your grid. So there's that. So I think that's everything that I wanted to talk about as far as new contract is concerned. If you, this one, if you want to update, so that's contract compensations, contract employees. Hopefully that gives you a better idea of what you're doing with them. As far as non-contract employees, if you are doing some sort of a unit amount increase for your subs or something like that, for next year, when you want to do that, I would encourage you to go to core compensation and go to that non-contract compensation. Yeah, sorry, just making sure. Non-contract compensation grid. There is a mass change that we have out there, not in this database, but we do have it in your databases, or at least we should, that updates the unit amount. I apologize. I didn't know that I was going to actually go into that. I wasn't prepared to go into this, but anyways, you could add, second here while I find it, unit amount to your grid. And then, no, of course, then you have to return back the non-contract compensations, verify your unit amounts. You can filter this grid based on an amount. And then there should be a mass change available in your districts if you want to update your unit amounts accordingly for next year. If you don't have that mass change in there, I can quickly add that. So just let me know if you can't find it. But essentially you're going to click on mass change. And this says archive, but in yours, it's going to say like update unit amount or something like that. It'll give you a box down here where you type the new unit amount in and then submit mass change. Any item that's on your grid at that time will be updated to change the unit amount on your non-contract compensations. So that's how I would do that. That is in the instructions. Yeah, it's in the instructions. It's the very last topic on page 8 of the LACA instructions down here. So, that's what you can do to update your non-contract compensations. Any questions on that? And there is also like a mass load that can be used. I don't know that I would necessarily recommend that. The report that you run to get your extract file basically is unfiltered and it's huge and it's hard to work with. The mass load procedure for new contracts isn't the most efficient method, but this mass change one is what I would highly recommend if all you're doing is updating unit amounts for the next year. Okay. Again, apologize for being long-winded. Anybody have any questions about new contracts?
Jake, I do.
Yes.
When you've imported and they're just sitting in the new contract area. You
Oh,
haven't
yeah.
done anything with them yet.
Hmm.
At what point do you activate them? Do you
Yeah, so
do it right away or do you have to wait till that payroll starts?
good question. I've always kind of thought that, I mean, it doesn't hurt anything to activate those compensation records right away. However, what I've found out is that, changes happen, things happen, things get confusing when you have multiple records showing up at any given time. I would recommend now, just based off of my most recent couple of years of experience, hearing your questions and seeing different situations, I would just let them hang out in that new contract grid until you're ready to use them. It just makes things less complicated in other areas of the software. If for any reason, just that purpose alone. And then, I also encourage you guys to use your activation worksheet to kind of map out when different pay groups need to be activated. And then that way you can kind of keep track of when to activate certain groups of employees. Um, so when you're ready to do that, if you want to add, and this is kind of going to be a helpful tip, if you want to add, give me a second here, right here. Okay, so under position and under pay group, if you add the code to your new contract grid, you can fit, oh my goodness, there's so many fields. You can filter this. So if you're building your new contract grid, pay group by pay group, and you're ready to activate one, I mean, you can essentially filter it on a certain pay group. I know all of mine are H, but I mean, if you have 1, 2, 3, 50, whatever, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all in your new contract grid and you're ready to start activating, you can filter by pay group. It's going to shorten your grid to just what you want to activate. And then essentially just check the checkbox to select everyone and then activate. I guess I should have probably showed you this already, but when you do activate, there is this box that says transfer the primary compensation flag to new compensations. I always encourage you to check this box. And it has come up over the last couple of years. Primary compensation isn't necessarily being used by everyone right now, but if you have multiple compensations that are ever out there and you want to run a report and you only want to use like the primary compensations, that you can run reports that filter based off of this, or run grids that are filtered based off of primary compensation flag, just to help you out for since it kind of default comes checked in the first place. It's not really having you do anything extra. I just say leave that checked so that your new compensation is going to be the primary compensation. Just in case you ever needed to run a report or filter a grid on the current, or the newest year compensation, it's always just doing that. So and then when you activate, it's just gonna take those off of your grid and move them into core compensation, contract compensation. So good question. I would recommend just kind of letting them hang out in new contract maintenance until you're ready to use them. That's just my personal recommendation. I don't really have any other reason other than just from experience, it kind of keeps things clean and neat and organized in your database, and doesn't cause any hectic craziness down the road. Good question, Stacy. Do we leave report to EMIS unchecked until after the last submission? Absolutely, 100% yes. Because if you have two compensations that are unarchived hanging out in your contract compensation grid, it will pull data from both of them when you do an EMIS collection. So if you leave report to EMIS unchecked on your new contracts, that's the best method of not messing up your EMIS collection. And then we do kind of remind you guys throughout the year to archive the old, check report to EMIS on the new. So we'll make sure we send those reminders out, but that should be part of your procedures for the August timeline, August, September timeline every year anyways. So that's a good question, Stacy. Thanks for reminding me about that. Barb, I hope I answered your question. Does anybody else have any other questions? Rowena, good question. Any update on mass stop? I don't have an update on that. I think the last time it was brought up was a couple of months ago, and it's not in the immediate timeline, but I did hear some rumblings that they might be able to get to some sort of mass stop. There's a lot of moving parts when it comes to that. They may get to it by the end of the year, but I don't have any firm date on that or any particular release that they're aiming for. But I know that it's at least been thought about, and they've got some preliminary framework of it that's being kind of thought out at this point. Do you still want us to submit a new contract purge list? Yeah, so that new contract purge list is what I call the activation worksheet. We do have a link to that in the PowerPoint and on our website. You can use that as you need. If you want us to review it with you, if you have any questions or issues with it, feel free to ask them, create a ticket and send it to us. You don't have to. We don't use that purge sheet or activation worksheet for anything for our use. So if you have a good understanding of your pay groups and when you're ready to activate them, by all means, just do it as you need. You don't have to send that to us, but if you want a second pair of eyes looking at it, feel free to send it to us and we can take a look and let you know if it makes sense to us or not. Okay, any other questions? These are good questions. Keep them coming if you got them. just before I forget, tomorrow we're meeting, I have a meeting, I think, yeah, Tiffany, you're gonna be there too. So we have a meeting with SSDT. I think a lot of conversation is gonna be had about these pay slips. I will continue to update you guys with information, as I get it on possibly how those fields are getting calculated from the software. What maybe needs to be done going forward to get those fields to calculate properly. If there are any changes to be made in your current procedures, I will let you know if, I don't know. I don't know a lot about it right now, and I'm going to be educated more thoroughly tomorrow. So I'll just continue to pass along information as I get it. Um, and I know that there are a lot of there's a lot of input and a lot of thought being put into this. So this is not taken lightly and has consumed a lot of the programmer hours the last couple of weeks. Um, so I will continue to pass along information on that pay stub and pay stub updates. Any other questions? Okay, I take that as a no. We will be doing another software update on April 22nd, or I'm sorry, May 22nd. Roundtable will be the beginning of June. We'll go over some STRS advanced fiscal year end stuff at that meeting. I just now realize that's what we're talking about at that meeting. So really looking forward to that. So I'm sure you guys are too. I will stay in contact with you guys about when we will do the document storage file archive migrations. Again, it will take your database down for a period of time, a short period of time over a weekend. So hopefully that doesn't have any impact to you guys, but I will definitely notify you all before this happens. Hopefully I thought of everything else. Make sure you put these dates in your calendars. I'll continue to try to keep you guys as informed as possible on all of these moving changes and parts, and I'll keep you up to date on the Ippy Dippy conversion. And again, if you haven't already, click on that link in the chat message uh, if you can, to update that Google Docs so that Stephanie can get out information to all of the committee chair people and superintendents on that Ippy Dippy thing as well. So, oh, one last slide here. Um, all right, sorry about that. This is the one I'm most proud of. This is my new grandson. Who was born this morning at 3:30. So just wanted to introduce you guys to him. And thank you guys for attending the meeting today. And if you guys have anything, just send it to us and we'll be glad to help you out. Thank you guys, and we'll talk to you soon.